What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk a little bit about traffic tickets. It's probably the worst experience you can have as a new driver, or as a, at any age really, but specifically a new driver, as it probably has never happened to you before. But getting pulled over, getting a ticket, having to go through all of that stuff can be quite an experience. So I figured I'd want to make some video content here for y'all. I've gone through this process multiple times. It's probably not a good thing to say, but I've gone through this process multiple times, and so I have a little bit of experience and can give you guys a framework, or at least some options on, if this does happen to you, how you might be able to handle it. So first things first, if you are getting a ticket, that means you're getting pulled over. And getting pulled over can be kind of a scary experience for some people, especially if you've never had it done before. So the first thing is obviously pull your car off to the side of the road and put it in park. Very basic stuff, but you'd be surprised at how many people decide to run from the cops. The next thing that you want to do that most people don't is you want to put your hands on the steering wheel and you want to make sure all of your windows are rolled down. Now, most cars in the US have tinted rear windows, and some cars even have tinted front windows like I do. And so when a cop is walking up to your car, you don't want them thinking like, oh, what's hiding there, or who's in the back seat, or what's going on with this car. Just roll all your windows down, keep your hands on the steering wheel. If you have any interior lights, go ahead and put all of those on so the officer can see inside the vehicle. And that's gonna get you probably, hopefully, started off on the right foot with the officer, and hopefully that leads to a warning and not a ticket. There are some officers out there that love to give warnings, some love to give tickets, and there's a whole spectrum in between. Some like to lecture you for a half hour and then give you the ticket. Some like to not say anything and give you a warning. So it's a mixed bag, right? Depending on who you get pulling you over. But the best thing that you can do is to make sure you're calm, you're not trying to look like you're running or anything like that. Once we've gotten the ticket, let's say we've talked to the officer, they're not really buying our story or whatever it is, and they've gone ahead and given you a citation. What that's gonna look like is this really, really, really long piece of paper that has a fold in it. It's basically gonna tell you everything that was wrong, where it happened, what happened, who saw it. It's gonna have some of your personal details on there, like, the information from your driver's license. And it's also going to have 3 different options that you have to actually fight the ticket. And so that's what we want to talk about today. Now, what kind of tickets are even worth fighting? There are some tickets out there that you don't want to fight, believe it or not. But for a majority of those tickets, you do want to fight them. Let's talk about the tickets that you don't want to fight. Some of the tickets that you won't want to fight are tickets where you don't have any points. Now, the point system is just the state's way of being able to track your driving record. And so in Michigan, if you get a citation that has 2 or 3 points associated with it, those will go on your driving record and they'll stay there for 2 years. After 2 years, those points will fall off, but they'll be there for 2 years. Why does that matter? Now that matters because your insurance rates are based on the points on your driving record. And if you get too many points, the state will actually take your license away. So that's why points are super critical to this discussion and to traffic, citations in general. The points are why we fight the tickets. And so going back to the kinds of tickets that we wouldn't want to fight, basically those are tickets without any points. Some good examples of those kinds of tickets would be like a tint ticket, failure to have your registration for the vehicle when pulled over, failure to have your insurance for the vehicle when pulled over. Those are kind of like fix-it tickets. And basically what that means is if you can show proof that whatever you had was valid at the time you were pulled over, insurance or registration, they'll basically just say, yeah, pay the fine and move on. They won't really, give you any points. And so if that's the case, if that's the ticket you have, don't fight that. Pay the fine, show the proof, and move on. The tickets that we will want to fight are the points related tickets. And so with every, citation, you're gonna have 3 options. The first option, accept the penalties, pay the fine, and move on. That's the bad option, because that gives you the points. The second option is to write a written explanation into the judge, explaining why you don't think that this is warranted. Most of the time, they're either just gonna agree with the police officer, or they're gonna say, hey, we saw your letter, but we'd like to hear it from you in person, so here's a court date, whatever. The third option is the one that we're gonna go with, which is deny any responsibility and set a court date. I'd like to plead my case in person. And the reason you want to do this, again, like we said, is for the points. The points is really what's going to bite you, because every single month your insurance premiums are going to reflect your driving record. And so that could be an extra 20 or 30% in your car insurance every single month for 2 years after that citation was issued. And so that's really where you got to be careful. But if we do get a court date, right, and we're going to see the judge in the courtroom, there's a couple of things that we should kind of go over. First, obviously, dress in an appropriate style. If you have a button-down shirt, if you have a nice blouse, and you know you're going to look presentable, do that. Don't come into the courtroom wearing sweatpants or shorts and a, you know, basketball uniform on. Like, that's just not going to give you the best representation, even if you didn't do anything wrong, because a lot of this stuff happens based on the perception of what's happening. And if the judge thinks that you're trying to downplay his authority or anything like that, he's probably going to slap you with the book. So don't do that. But when you are in there, you have a couple options. Basically, what you're in there talking to the judge or the magistrate about is how to get your fine reduced to a different fine. And so what this might look like is, let's say you had a red light violation. A red light violation in Michigan, if you go through a red light, would be 3 points and like $175. At court, what they might do is say, hey, we see this is your first traffic ticket. We see that you've been a great driver other than this. What we're willing to do is we are willing to make this red light stop ticket into a 1 to 5 over on a limited access roadway. And basically what that means is, 1 to 5 over on a highway, limited access, that offense carries a $200 fine, but 0 points. And so they're going to kind of, increase the fine, but lower the points. And as soon as they give you that option, you take it. You have to take that offer, because that's basically just giving you one of those fix-it tickets. Pay the fine and move on. Your insurance won't be affected. Your driving record won't be affected. That's really the end goal there. And so with that in mind, go into court, dressed appropriately, and see what they're able to do for you. I mean, I had a court case back in 2019, I believe, where it was a red light. I went through a yellow light and they slapped me with a red light violation. It was 3 points. There were 6 of us in the courtroom getting our traffic tickets handled, and they brought us all up all at once to see the judge. And basically he was just like, hey guys, you guys are all here for a very similar fine. What we're willing to do is move all of your fines to the limited access 1 to 5 over. And we were all very excited. We're like, yeah, perfect. That's exactly why we're here. Let's do it. And this one lady in the group of 6 of us raised her hand and she said, yeah, but I wasn't on a highway. And we were like, lady, you don't understand. He knows that. He knows you weren't on a highway, that you were in some kind of subdivision somewhere. But he's saying he's allowing you to get the 1 to 5 over on a highway ticket because that's no points. And that's why we're all there. Eventually, that got through to the lady and she ended up accepting the deal and we were able to pay our fines and leave. But really just be aware of what you're trying to do when you're in the courtroom, because that's where the decisions are being made that are going to affect you for not just that point in time to pay the fine, but possibly the next 2 years if you get any points added to your license. Something else that you can do while you're in there is, if it's your second, maybe third traffic ticket, or if it's a ticket that might be 3 or 4 points, they do have an option for driver re-education. And that's basically just an e-course where you go on there and you watch a couple videos, you answer a couple questions, and as long as you get like an 85% or higher, which is really easy to do, they're going to accept that certificate from that re-education course as proof that you've been re-educated, and they will actually wipe those points from that specific citation off of your record. So that's only ever offered once, so use it sparingly. It's kind of like your one get out of jail free card, specifically when it comes to traffic tickets. The other kind of scary thing is if you are doing this and let's say you got a ticket or some kind of citation that is for more than just some of this petty stuff. That's when we start talking and having the conversation about, do I need a lawyer? For most of these offenses, you really don't need a lawyer, but there are a couple scenarios where I would recommend you do hire a lawyer. And so in those couple scenarios would be like if you're facing any kind of jail time. Obviously, if it's a heinous offense, they're probably going to take you to jail right on the spot. And if they do that, call a lawyer immediately. You definitely want that. I would also get a lawyer if the cops are threatening or the court's threatening to take my license away, if the fine that I see is over $500 or $600, to me that would warrant a lawyer. Another reason to get a lawyer would be if the offense is out of state. You know, most of the time, depending on where you live or what's going on, you probably don't want to travel to a different state to handle a court case. In that context, it could be really useful to hire a lawyer and to get a lawyer that's local to the area that might know the judge to help you out. So those are like a couple of areas where I would hire a lawyer, but for the most part, any regular traffic ticket, I would not. So hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of a framework or some options if you've never been pulled over, or if you are worried about what might happen after you do get pulled over. We went through a couple of options on what you can do and what your options are. If you guys think I missed anything, or if you just think I'm wrong in general, drop a comment down below, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you soon for some more content. Peace.